That's policing in this country. There's been a lot of recent headlines with policing, and let's see where we are. Hold on one second. Let me go back to this page and scroll it up and come back and see if we're okay. I want to hit escape. I don't want this here. I don't want this here. Move it. Okay, good. All right. Are we good? We are good. Um, First thing I want to talk about, I was really looking for the case that is dealing with Tyree Nichols, who is a black man that was beaten to death by five or six black officers. Now, my personal feelings about policing, I don't know how relevant they are. Um, my historical understanding of policing, two completely different things. If I'm asked in the chat what if I'm ever asked directly what my feelings are, I will tell what my feelings are. What I'm doing is giving a historical network on policing and the thoughts that we need to entertain. But on the way to getting to uh, Mr. Nichols' unfortunate case, I saw a Capitol officer who fatally shot Ashley Babbitt outside the door of the Capitol building during the during the January 6th riot has been formally exonerated after an internal investigation. The United States Capitol Police Office, in professional responsibility, has cleared the officer involved in the shooting of Ashley Babbitt. U.S. Capitol Police announced in a press release on Monday saying officer will not be facing internal discipline. And I want to learn more about this case. Let me go back to this page. I'm going to open it up and let's check it out. All right. Let me see. How do I move from one page to the next? I'm going to get better at this, I promise. But we got time. It looks like we only have one person here holding it tight with me. So let's go into Ashley Babbitt, the police officer who fatally shot Ashley Babbitt outside a door of the U.S. Capitol during the January 6th riot has been formally exonerated after an internal investigation, according to a department memo obtained by NBC News. The officer, whose name has not been released, opened fire on Babbitt as she and a mob of other Trump supporters tried to forcibly enter the Capitol. Now, I this is one thing I slipped on. This is one thing I slipped on, and I want to come back. One thing I slipped on is this is NBC News. I just happened to find it, and I always try to get stuff from the White House. I'm interested to see if the White House addresses it, if they have a different spin than NBC, or if it's just going to go. Hi, Dr. Bolton. I saw you were looking into politics with policing. What do you think of far right Republicans trying to pardon Derek Chauvin? Um, would love to hear your thoughts and my take. Hmm, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised, man. Um, our policing system came out of slave patrols. That's a fact. This is something I've researched deeply. I have interviewed police officers, police chiefs, um, deputy police chiefs, retired police officers. They've given me their history going back to um, somewhere in England, but the slave patrols actually precede those. The police officers have always enforced the agenda of the state. You feel me? When in the 60s, who was holding the billy clubs? Who had the dogs? Who had the water hoses? The police. So the state, when schools were being desegregated, when any of those issues were going on, dealing with Jim Crow, Plessy versus Ferguson, any of the discriminatory laws that we've had in our country, they were enforced by the police department. Bull Connor, police sheriff. Um, so that has always been the arm of the state's agenda. So you may take the first fall for them, but are they going to come to your rescue? Yeah. So I would not be surprised if Derek Chauvin is exonerated, has his sentence commuted. No more than I'm surprised that the gentleman involved in Tyree Nichols' death was exonerated. The police officers in most Black deaths have been exonerated. Derek Chauvin has been the exception and not the rule. So, with Trump's recent referendum on crime, which is why these videos are so important, that's what made room for this Chauvin maneuver. So, can you write me a letter of recommendation for a job? Okay. So obviously somebody has absolutely nothing else better to do. But if you have nothing else better to do, I'm glad you're doing it here. That is it's a sign of our times, and it's a sign that things haven't changed. It's funny, you'll notice that for up until about Trump number one, when the Tea Party and all of those things started happening, the white narrative was things were bad, but we've come so far since then. We are a post racial society. What are you complaining about? Well, now they're crossing themselves up, thinking enough years have passed to say, let's go back to how things were. Well, now that messes up the argument of 50-year-old conservative whites who are saying that we want to make America great again, but before we were saying it was bad and we've moved from that, stop living in the past, but now we want to go back to the past. So really the people that are 40, 50, 60 in the MAGA movement, those are our hypocrites that are really or have changed their agenda, and I would like to know why. I don't want to call them hypocrites. I would love to have them come on and actually explain to me how this makes sense. But what we're going to do is we're going to get into policing. I had to answer a question in the chat. Thank you for asking. So I'm going to go back to yes, I was apologizing for this being NBC upfront, but let's see what we can learn from this. The officer, whose name has not been released, opened fire on Babbitt as she and a mob of other Trump supporters tried to forcibly enter the Capitol. The video of the shooting showed Babbitt in front of a crowd of rioters trying to get through the door leading to where the members of Congress were being evacuated on the House side of the building. The Justice Department announced in April that no charges were being brought against the officer. The exoneration by the Capitol Police wraps up the remaining investigation. A memo from the commander of the Capitol Police Office of Personal Responsibility says no further action will be taken on this matter after the officer was exonerated for use of force. A lawyer for Babbitt's family declined to comment. The officer's lawyer, Mark Schmel, said that in a statement Monday that the decision to clear the officer was the only correct conclusion following the events on January 6th. Number one, Ashley Babbitt's family, to be truthful, I'm sorry to hear anybody lost their lives. And for those of you who actually watch the videos of the channel, know how I feel about January 6th. I feel that the right to assemble, the right to protest, the right to air grievances is as American as the United States Constitution or the Declaration of Independence. Both state that you have that right to do that. If you feel that the government needs to be overturned and replaced with another one, that is an American fundamental quality that is articulated in our Declaration of Independence. So you can't say you're American and be against protesting, even breaking the law. I think Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. called it civil. Oh, what did he call it? It'll come to me. But he was saying, when they were breaking segregation laws, that was civil disobedience. We are going against this law. We're doing something illegal in an interest to change the law itself. Because most people are saying you can protest, but you have to protest within the law. Well, if I'm protesting about something that's not the law, that makes sense. But if I'm protesting about a law, I have to attack the law itself. So we get into a murky area. Now, there was video of Miss Babbitt getting shot, and I am sorry that someone in their enthusiasm to exercise their rights as an American lost their life. But we understand that when we protest, that is part of the possibility in this country. And we have enough history to know that a protest can be very dangerous very quickly in this country. We've had the 60s. We had George Floyd. We had the Tiki Torch people. We've had Watts riots. We had the Rodney King riots. We had the civil rights protests. We had women's suffrage protests. We've had the Civil War, we had the Revolutionary War, we've had Bacon's Rebellion. I mean, we can go all the way back to colonial days as to where we've had these uprisings, and many of them elevate from nonviolent to violent. White protest in the United States is traditionally, historically, military in nature. Black people are going to use greatly. I mean, you got your exceptions. You got your Nat Turners of the world and your Denmark Vesey's of the world. But primarily, we are a diplomatic descent in the United States history. We are going to try to use moral suasion. I mean, all the way Frederick Douglass to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. forward. You know, if you see that we are all of the things that you think we're not, your morality will kick in and we will live as brothers. Natives were a bit more aggressive. Um, but that's not true. Natives tried both because you have the five civilized tribes that took the United States to court, won in the Supreme Court, and the United States did the Trail of Tears anyway. And then at the same time, you had the Native Americans fighting for their homes all while this was going on. But rarely do we have record of white descent being peaceful. Um, I'm sure that there are many arguments, and I welcome, but white descent is generally historically violent. So, in comparison, January 6th was relatively peaceful. Um, in the context of historic white descent. In that, these people are aggressively taking over the state capital, right? And there are people paid to secure the capital, which this unnamed officer who has been acquitted was one of them, obviously. And he, on the video, drew down, warned the crowd, they're forcing their way through the door. Many officers were had their guns drawn, but they were in retreat, as was this officer. And if I remember correctly, this young lady jumped up on something to climb through a door that was barricaded. It was either barricaded or locked, or the door was broken, but she's trying to force her way through it with an officer pointing a gun. Now, everybody in this scenario is white. Officer's white, crowd is white, victim is white. So there's no race in this, but I'm sure somebody is going to say, some way I found a racial card. The officer has his gun drawn, he is giving warnings, and for whatever reason, this woman is, I'm not going to say aggressively, but enthusiastically trying to get through the door. Boom, fires a shot, she goes down. I believe it was only one shot fired. And it didn't seem to disperse the crowd or really decrease the enthusiasm, because I don't think anybody really registered what happened, that young lady had actually been shot. I don't know what else was the expectation. I think because historically, when you hear about these armed uh, riots or protests by whites, there is generally everyone, if they're prosecuted, is exonerated, you know, forgiven. And I don't think that they were looking for that reaction. Um, I do feel if it were Black Lives Matter or if it were any other ethnicity of people in this country that did the same thing, it not only would have been mass casualty, but it would have been heavily supported by this Second Amendment country. Um, I am surprised how quiet this is. And I think it's quiet because Trump forgave all of the sentences of the people in that riot. But I thought that was under the circumstances. I can see myself doing the same thing. Um, I don't know how much her being a woman was expected to play into it. Like, okay, if she got in, what was she going to do? I don't know. But that's the risk that we take. When we quote Sir Patrick Henry, we have to remember all of that statement. It was give me liberty or give me death. When we protest on that level, that's a possibility. Okay. Um, so I hope that her family finds peace and understanding in this situation. I think that that is very unfortunate, but I also feel that that officer was put in a horrible position over something I don't believe he felt was that deep. I believe people were put in a very, I cannot guess what he had to process in that moment when he's paid to protect the people in Congress and there are people coming in the building. I don't know what he had to think they were going to do. I was surprised he only shot once. That being the case, um, I am happy that his career is not ended. Um, I cannot see what else he was was expected to do or not do. Um, Again, that was an unfortunate situation. It was an unfortunate choice, but we assume that choice when we protest in this country. I have had to personally ponder it during George Floyd. You know, what if something happens to me? How's, you know, who's going to take care of my family? What's that going to do to my parents? And I protested at the police station. So I'm right in line for any officers that may have a problem. So, in fact, I protested right across the street from where people were protesting for the police. I knew something was going to happen. I had a discussion with my son, and my son was concerned about something happening to him. So he was pondering if he should go, but he ended up going with me. And that is a part of our right to protest and our right to stand up for right or what we believe to be right, because we can think something's right and be absolutely wrong. But at the same time, we have Tyreek Nichols, who is Um, deliberately convicting innocent. Let me try to get to this page and see. Images of exonerated police officers. Um, no, that's not what I want. Where's the Nichols case? Okay, yeah, these guys. These guys right here. No, I don't want anything covering their faces. I really don't want anything covering their faces. Um, Wait a minute. How do we how do we get these guys up? All right. I'm trying to get these guys up where you can see them. Yeah. Yeah, I want to get these guys. I don't know why they have something in front of some of these guys' faces. I don't want to see this. I want this out of the way. Stop sharing. All right, I'm gonna come back here. Now I'm gonna try to go back in. Three of five former Memphis, Tennessee. What date is this? I want to make sure it's the right date as well. May 7th. Okay, this is today. Five of the four Memphis, Tennessee police officers who were acquitted by a jury Wednesday on all state charges, including second degree murder of the January 2023 fatal beating of Tyree Nichols. The other two officers previously agreed to plead guilty to the state charges. The acquittals are the most recent development in the case, which come after the same three officers were convicted of at least one crime in federal court and two others pleaded guilty. Nichols, a 29-year-old black man, ran from a traffic stop after officers yanked him out of the car, pepper sprayed him, and used a taser on him. The five officers who were also black, chased down Nichols, punched, kicked, hit him with police batons, struggled to handcuff him as he called out for his mother just steps from his home. That's terrible. Nichols died 3 days later, sparking nationwide protests. Five officers: Tadarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, Emmett Martin, Desmond Mills Jr., and Justin Smith were part of a crime suppression team called Scorpion Unit that was disbanded after Nichols' death. Oh, wow. The team targeted illegal drugs and guns and violent offenders to mass arrests while sometimes using force against unarmed people. All of the officers were fired after the beating, charged in state court with murder, and indicted by a federal grand jury on civil rights and witness tampering charges. Here's a look at each of the former officers' role in the beating death in the court cases. Bean tackled Nichols from behind. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. This, I'm sure this is going to be a mess. Bean tackled Nichols from behind as Nichols ran away from the officers and toward his nearby home. Bean then held Nichols on the ground while other officers struck Nichols. According to the footage from the scene, Bean said Nichols was eating the blows. Wow. Bean was acquitted Wednesday of state charges, including second-degree murder, aggravated assault, aggravated kidnapping, officer misconduct, and official oppression. He was convicted last year on a federal charge of witness tampering related to the cover-up of the beating. He was acquitted on federal civil rights charges of using excessive force and being indifferent to Nichols' serious injuries. Um, I was not there. I am not intimately involved in these cases. In this case, I haven't gone through all the nuance of the cases because, to be honest with you, it's too many of them and they all end up the same way as this one did. I would imagine those who pleaded guilty were probably the one with the most character of the five. Trained people with weapons and intelligence should not have to kill unarmed assailants. Period. Beating someone to death is not an accident, especially if you are trained in how to subdue people. You're an expert at it. That's what you do as a profession. So these officers are a particular type of person. And all black officers, I bet you that if there is a look into their histories, they've never done it to a white person. Black people do stuff to black people the same reason why everybody else does stuff to black people, because you can. I will guarantee, I will bet a fat man, and I do not have a fat man to lose. I will guarantee they had never done that to a white person. Um, I don't see a circumstance that if you have character, that you do not admit to some type of guilt. If I held someone down while everybody else was beating them, I'm culpable in that. For me to defend myself shows a lack of morality. And I have asked black police officers, I ask most black police officers if I hold a conversation with them. Over every opportunity that you had in this country, why would you join a fraternity with the history policing has in this country as it relates to our community? See, people mix up the policing issue and the racial issue. There is an overlap if we're going to Venn diagram it, but there are two distinct issues. There were black slave catchers. So all kinfolk, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. Just because you my color don't mean you're my kind. And this is a system that is policing, that is out of a need, because poverty is what creates crime. That's what creates crime. We've had studies over decades. going back to probably the most official study is the Kerner report done by LBJ, not to mention W.B. Du Bois's work at the turn of the century, that crime is a direct reflection of poverty. But because we don't care about poverty in America, in fact, we encourage poverty, we make poverty people's fault. We don't want to do anything about that. So crime is there. So we need more police. Well, policing is a job that is made for a certain type of person, number one. And it does not require a lot of education. People can get upset, but the facts are the facts. And they end up taking pretty much whoever they can get, and they don't have a lot of checkpoints throughout people being police officers to say, does this person have the mental stability to be a police officer? Because I remember when I was in college, a very close friend of mine in college became a police officer, and I knew that was dangerous. He just didn't have he was a good person. He just didn't have the temperament to be a police officer. If he had the opportunity and his anger was too close to his passion to be a police officer. So, in knowing that, um, that's how we get these type of police officers. So, no, this is not a black thing. Obviously, in this case, this is a policing thing, and our judicial system has always been desensitized to black death and black bodies. Now, to be fair, there is generally a heightened level of sensitivity to white women in our judicial system. So I'm very surprised. No, I shouldn't say I'm very surprised because that video was pretty straightforward, but I am surprised that the gentleman who appeared to just be doing his job and under extreme duress and in a hostile situation fired upon an assailant to de-escalate the situation. I'm surprised that because that was a white female, that the outcome was different. But I feel in the case of Tyree Nichols, and maybe I have to look into it more. If five people, if number one, if there was a reason for the judicial system to exonerate them, why were they terminated? I'd like to know that. And maybe I need to do more research into the case. But you have to understand, Black people are Americans too. And just like whites are educated that Black life doesn't matter, that um, Black people are violent, that there's not a lot of value in Black lives, we're taught that too. We inherit the fears of white people because that's our media, that's our arts, that's our culture, that's our everything. So when we're learning what is all around us on the news, drug programs, all of this stuff that is being said about Black people scared of Black folks too. And they take on the ideology of the power structure that I can do something to this person and nothing's going to happen. So, and in no way do I think those 5 officers um, were in any way in fear for their lives. In no way do I believe that. In no way do I believe that. I think this is despicable, deplorable, and if there is if there is a such thing as karma, I I can't say I feel sorry for them, but I think their faces should be seen. I think they are a disgrace to policing. You can't tell me that 5 armed, trained officers had to kill a man running away. What was so if he would have got away, let's say he would have got away, what was the risk? Catch him tomorrow. He was running toward his house. What why does 5 people have to kill one person just because he was trying to run away? He wasn't shooting at him. They had already tased him. They had already put pepper spray in his face and pulled him out of the car. Now, what occurred that created that level of force and why that was logical and needed? That this man is being pulled out of the car by 5 people, pepper sprayed, tasered, and you expected him not to run? Then he's chased down, held down, while other people are beating him. Now, if we're holding him down, why we got to beat him? Hold him down till he get tired. Police are supposed to work for us. But when it comes into court, the question is, were you scared? Your training should decrease, if not eliminate, your fear, especially in a logical situation. The person is unarmed. He is subdued. He's on the ground. It's 5 of you. At the very least, there should be a mandate that you can never be a police officer again. Because when these people are exonerated, they can just go to the next county and get a job. That happens. So I'm very, very saddened by this policing thing. I'd like to know what you think. Please leave it in the comments. Share, like, subscribe. Um, that's history and politics, policing. Sad, sad day, sad topic.